of random.
Coming up on this week's episode of Hip Hop Now podcast, leaks of Kanye West's new album Donda doesn't leave a great impression on me. AZ sets a course for the release, finally, of Do or Die 2, and Drake calls Rick Ross the greatest rapper alive. I brought drinks to this one. Let's do it. Let's get ready to read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone. Classic album. Permanent hip hop podcast. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast really designed to catch you up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week. Returning listeners, what up? Glad you came through. Representing, hit that subscribe button. I know you did. Hit that like button. I know you did. Reviewed the podcast. I know you did. I know you did all these things I'm saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Big shout out to the first time listeners, the new listener, the person that was looking for a hip hop podcast and decided to press play on this one. I appreciate you for coming through. I hope you stick around. There's a lot you can learn about music that's out and perspectives that I may have on some of these stories on this podcast. But a really extra big shout out to the Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/hip hop now. Honestly, they're making a lot of things possible. If you would like to join, visit that site. I said it too quick for you. Don't worry. The link is in the description of this episode. Just click it, check it out, see what's what, learn about the show and the things I'm trying to do, and get access to timed exclusive podcasts that vary. Podcasts like one I did not too long ago, right? One about gems in your collection, right? I'm a big music fan, a big hip hop fan, obviously. And sometimes, especially now, right? We got a lot of hip hop that comes out, and it's hard to keep up with all the new stuff. But what's even crazier is hard to remember what you really liked, just like last year. Sometimes we'll have our top 5 of the year, and some of those albums won't get listened to ever again. But they were great enough that year to be in your top 5. And it's just because once you live long enough and you're a music fan, or even if you're young and you're a straight diehard music fan, you kind of like accumulate so much music that you start to lose track. I'm the type of fan that I frequently go back and listen to albums, mixtapes in my collection because some of them, even if I consider them classics, I haven't listened to them or pressed play on them sometimes in years. Like I see them all the time, right? You scroll past because you're trying to get to whatever album. You see them all the time. And then there are certain albums that, you go to all the time. So the point of the bonus episode was to give you 10 hip hop joints that are like hidden gems within my own collection that either you never heard them before and I think you should go listen to them, or you haven't listened to them in a while or don't remember them, that you should definitely go back and check them out because they were dope for what they were. Also, one dope thing about subscribing to Hip Hop Now podcast is the fact that I also do album reviews. Now, if you're a long time listener of this podcast, you already know I've done album reviews since the beginning of time. But before I used to kind of do them within the show. Well, now I only give impressions of some albums within the show. And then there are those albums that have so much buzz behind them, that have so much conversation surrounding them, that I choose to review those. Why? Because more people will be interested in hearing your opinion on those than me into reviewing, every 100,000 albums that drop every Friday. That's just too much. After a while, you're not only oversaturated with the music, you're oversaturated with the reviews. So recently, I did a review of Nas and Hit Boy's King's Disease 2. That's available on the audio stream on any podcasting service you listen to. All you got to do is subscribe to Hip Hop Now podcast. You'll see it in the feed. But also, you can go and watch the video version of it. And this time I appear in the actual reviews. Before I would just upload the audio, put the album cover up there, boom, bam, done, right? Boom, bam, that's what I meant. But this time I decided like, nah, I'm gonna turn on the camera, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna make an actual video. But I'm trying to make sure that the focus is on my voice, but not me in particular, but the album. So I'm there, but it's about the album. So check that out. That's on YouTube. It's on my channel called the B-Roll Network. If that sounds crazy, how do you spell it? I don't know. Look at the links in the description of this episode because everything is right there. Everything I tell you is right there. Or the same episode you listen to right now. Everything is there. All you got to do is click on it. All right. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com, allhiphop.com, djbooth.net, thesourcemagazine.com, and a couple of places where I'm getting some of these stories from. So we haven't done a news episode, the weekly episode of Hip Hop Now podcast. Hold up, I got to get the coconuts a rock. It's been a little while since we've done an episode. And since the last time I did a news focused episode, the regular episode of Hip Hop Now podcast, the baby has just been going through it. If you don't know, you've been somewhere under the tree, or maybe you just want to know what's going on. The baby had some not too kind comments recently at a concert in recent weeks, I should say, regarding gays and just he just kind of went in and did the type of speech you'd hear. I mean, people would still be offended, but it's the type of rapper speech you would hear when somebody's in a small club and they're just saying what they want. He was on a much bigger stage than that, and I don't mean physically. And he apologized like twice, but it's like apologizing and reneging, and we know some of it is PR, and it's just a mess. So there's been a lot of people weighing in. Like I watched a video of 50 Cent weighing in, saying that he doesn't feel like the baby is going to be completely canceled, but 50 basically alluded to the baby needing to have better people in his corner to help him understand that you are on a level now that when you say certain things, you can become straight up it's like the center of attention in pop culture, which he has. And I like the baby. I like his music. But this is where I don't understand the disconnect. And I agree with 50, but I don't understand the disconnect, right? You already know you're popular, right? As an artist, you already know you're making a lot more money than you probably were when you started. You know that you are meeting a whole different sector of popular, celebrity, musical, whatever people that should tell you, I'm not just a hip hop star anymore. I'm a pop star who raps. But that's what my exposure is, which means the audience that was there when I was, performing in the hoods and the places where I come from, they still there. But now my audience has expanded. So I have to watch what I say about certain things. Now, granted, not saying he can't say what he believes, but just understand there are consequences for some of the things you say. It just is. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's the society you live in. Sometimes I can't stand when people say, "Yo, well, why this or why that, why that." Oh, we already knew what society we live in. We already knew this. So if you say what you said, there are going to be consequences because of the level you're playing at. Now, if you in a little, hole in the wall corner club saying that and everybody else in there agrees with you, it might be one person be like one or two, whatever, or maybe even that whole little club to be like, we ain't coming back. But you're not really going to be hurt by that. And some people say, well, he don't need the money at all. Nah, yeah, I beg to differ because when your income gets higher, so do your expenses. When Big said more money, more problems, that just wasn't a catchy title of a song. That was facts. Your expenses increase because typically, if you look at him, he's probably definitely buying more, right? And you're paying for more. You may now have security in your home or you just had a gat in the house. You need security in your home for when you're not there. So people don't break in and steal your jewelry and your clothes and your furniture and your cars. So your expenses go up. And then when you do something to jeopardize the bag or say something, right, to jeopardize the bag and everybody's canceling you, including all of the endorsements you're getting and the shows you had lined up, well, now those bills appear to be much higher than before because you don't have the money coming in. Now, I'm not saying the baby was right or wrong. I don't really want to take a side in that. The point is what 50 said. You need to have people around you who can advise you. Your homies, they don't know anything. Clearly. Clearly. Now, I'm not saying everyone, right? I wasn't backstage. You could have had a homie who was like, yo, maybe you shouldn't have said that out there, regardless of how you feel. We don't know. The baby has to listen to him also, right? But at the end of the day, he is the one that's going to lose money. And don't get it twisted. When you see this artist making money, all the money don't go in their pocket. They got a lot of people who they have to pay. A lot of people who are a part of what makes them so great. It's not just the music. So hopefully for him, it gets resolved because he put out some apologies, but he's kind of going back and forth and he's kind of making his string along. And dudes like Tory Lane are like, I could come outside now. So we shall see with that. But I definitely want to address that because that's been something that had been going on for a while. Some of you who listen to this podcast know I like the baby's music. And this is just unfortunate because it was just a stupid thing to say and do, knowing where it would lead to. Bars. So Drake said, I had hit the microphone. Damn. I'm acting like Dip said, like I don't know how to perform. Uh, Drake reveals his pick for greatest rapper alive. This story is on hiphopdx.com, so you can check it out. I'm going to read some of it here, though. It was kind of like in video form, but I'm going to read what they have on hiphopdx.com because this is where I'm getting the story from. As the most streamed artist of all time with a staggering 39 billion plays on Spotify alone, Drake probably has his fair share of fans who would rank him as the best rapper alive. But who does Drizzy place atop that list? I hate calling him Drizzy. That's just stupid. Whatever. In a video post to his Instagram story on Wednesday, August 11th, if you're from the future, you know what to do. You need to get your ass out of here. October's very own, damn, this person is capping it up, ain't they? Sorry, I'm going to keep reading. October's very own revealed his pick in the perpetual barbershop debate over the greatest rapper on earth. And he picked Rick Ross. I got to see why. Here's a quote. The greatest rapper alive met my favorite rapper alive. All right. I don't know what that's about. The timing and everything is aligning. That's Rick Ross, whatever he. So they basically just showing what Rick Ross felt about it, about Drake saying that. But let's get into what he said because we know this is hip hop. We got to debate that. We got to. So it's clear that when Drake says the greatest rapper alive, and shout out to Kill who kind of put me on to this story also, and we talked about it on his show, Apartment 5B episode will be dropping soon. Um, my thoughts on what Drake said was he kind of has a point. No, Rick Ross is not the best lyricist alive, not by a stretch. I don't think Jadakiss is either. I just think y'all not used to seeing hip hop. You know what I'm saying? But I think Jadakiss is dope. But Rick Ross is not better than Jadakiss lyrically. But I don't think that's what Drake is talking about. I think Drake, in my opinion, is probably talking about the consistency of Rick Ross, right? Now, there are other rappers who have been pretty consistent, but some, like if we were to say Kendrick Lamar, right? I don't think Kendrick Lamar has not one whack album, but he only basically has what, four of them with a like a unreleased something, whatever, untitled, unmastered, whatever. They're all good. They're all great. But Rick Ross has consistently put out music where the subject matter is practically the same, but it always sounds dope. He almost is never bad on a feature either. Typically, when they collaborate, they put out hits. There's something to be said about a dude who is that consistent with his music, with his pen, with his beat picking. Rick Ross knows how to pick beats. He knows the beats that fit him, that fit the songs that he wants to make. He knows what he should say and how he should approach flow wise, right? Cadence wise, certain tracks. It's rare that I look at a Rick Ross album that I'm not too big on and say is whack. I wasn't a big fan of Rick Ross before Deeper Than Rap. I heard Deeper Than Rap and I was like, yo, I think I'm sleeping on Rick Ross. Since Deeper Than Rap, he's had albums that are like hit or miss, but we're not talking like, in no disrespect to the GOAT LL Cool J, right? We ain't gonna talk about that. There's a whole show I did on that, but no disrespect to Cool James. But LL has had, you see, I had the pause, right? LL has had albums where you're like, this album is basically whack, but there's two or three hits on it. So I'd never listen to the album again, but I for damn sure would listen to these three songs. Rick Ross just has albums that are still good, but they're just not as great as the ones you really like. And that's saying a lot, right? Because you're not really committing to saying something is whack. So do I feel like he is the greatest rapper alive? I don't think so. Because I feel like that's so subjective and debatable, and people change the categories. And even if we talk about consistency, even with someone like a Kendrick Lamar having less albums than Rick Ross, but still being consistent, I feel like um, Kendrick Lamar's projects are way more potent because his subject matter isn't redundant. It doesn't matter how much I like Rick Ross' subject matter, no matter how many times he says it, it is redundant. Whereas Kendrick Lamar is giving you a different look every time. So, no, I don't agree with uh, Drizzy, October's own, according to Hip Hop DX. But I will say he definitely has a point, and it's definitely an argument to be made for Rick Ross to have that title. It just is. And it wouldn't be Drake either. Why? Because how many full rap albums does Drake have? if you ask me, his best work are the ones that are mostly singing. Or maybe that's just what I like. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. That's what it is. So I got a leaked copy of Kanye West's Donda. It had what I assume is the majority of the records on there, close to a little over 20, maybe 22, 21 tracks. And this is more of an impressions, but not official. This is less of a review because the album still ain't out yet. But based off of what I heard, I gotta be upfront with y'all. I don't know if I like it. And it really made me think about when's the last time I really liked a Kanye West album. I think the last thing that I was like, yo, this is so dope was his EP with Kid Cudi. That was the last time I was like, yo, this is dope. And it was a Kanye West project. Now, he's had albums since then, right? But to me, it's weird, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I don't feel like the whole album, 22 tracks, is whack. There are definitely some joints on there where I was like, yo, this is it. But if he releases this amount of tracks or more on this project, I'm like totally against it because I feel like if he cut it down to, let's say, 10 or 11, there's enough to make a really solid project that would be respectable because there were enough songs that I liked. But then this is the thing. And again, the album's not out yet. It's not a reason for anyone who's interested in Kanye's new album to not check it out. But from what I could hear, it just sounds, I don't know what the agenda is. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's obviously a lot about his mom's, right? Because it's called Donda. That's kind of the overall theme. So I do get that. But then there's the gospel side of it, right? That you kind of expect. Then there's a little bit of old yay in there, and then there's a little 808s yay. And it just made me think about the people who went to his listening party twice to have the album not drop yet. At some point, we just being cheap. At some point, we got to call a spade a spade. From what I heard from the leaks, this joint is just not good to me. And when I say not good, it does I don't put it in the same lane as someone who's just completely whack. But I think with Kanye West and the fact that he can have a listening party in a stadium and have that many people show up twice, then there's a level. There's a level of expectations that he needs to meet as an artist, as a producer, and all of that. But I feel like some people just like to follow what's new and what's the wave. Now, again, I'm listening to a leak that's probably unmastered. And in fact, I know it was in a lot of ways. Um, and it's not a final track listing. So some features could disappear, right? There could be different lyrics for different records. It could be all kinds of stuff. But if we're just talking about the leaked version of his album, Donda, I'm really not feeling it. So, this is what I'm gonna say to you, the viewer, the listener. When the album drops, I'm going to review it. Don't worry. I don't know how to bring my baggage into certain situations. I know how to forget the fact that I listened to a leaked version. I'm not going to let that color my opinion about the finished product when it comes out. But I got to tell you, if it's anything like what I listened to that I wanted to delete because I was like, well, I'm probably never going to listen to this again, it's not going to be a very good review. I'm just saying. In other news, this is also on hiphopdx.com. Lupe Fiasco is not exaggerating as he compares his new album, to Nas's Illmatic. Here we go. It's going to be a long show. It's going to be a long damn show. He posted this on Twitter. It's my Illmatic, and he put no, and he put in a hat emoji. So he's basically saying no cap. Also on Twitter, he posted, "I'm not at all exaggerating either." I'm a I'm gonna say this. Y'all know I do not like people qualifying other rappers or their projects by comparing it to other people that were great, other artists that were great, or even other projects that were great. Now, some would say, well, we kind of do that, right? Like, if your man is like, yo, is that new Battlefield hot? But he played Call of Duty, well, you got to make the comparison, right? If somebody asks you, should I buy J. Cole album or buy Kendrick Lamar album? Well, you got to make the comparison, because in some ways they are close. Illmatic was so long ago. What, Mr. Lupe, this is what you got to understand, dog. You're not doing yourself and your album no favors by making Illmatic the measuring stick. Now, you might be right, in some ways. I mean, it's hard to imagine, but you might be right in some ways, right? To think that your new album is on a level with Illmatic. But this is the difference, right? When Nas was dropping Illmatic, he didn't come out and say, "I think my album is on the level of Paid in Full. I think my album is on a level of Straight Outta Compton. I think my album's on a level of It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back." Why? Because then we would have measured Illmatic by those standards. He just put it out, and the people and the publications made it what it is today. They praised it for what it was. Now, don't get me wrong. Lupe is a potent lyricist, but Illmatic just wasn't lyricism. It was the time, it was the beat, it was Nas's voice, it was a different approach to lyricism that was familiar but new, right? It was like Rakim and Coogee Rap mixed together, but it was a different dude. He was from Queensbridge. He had all these different producers on his project, and that were all hot at the time, that mostly were associated with the groups and the crews they were a part of. And here they all are on this Rookies album. This ain't Lupe's debut. You can't say that before we hear it. You can't be the one to say it. It's kind of like when Jay-Z was calling himself King of New York. And it's like, well, when Big did that, he kind of was. When Biggie did that, he kind of was. And a lot of people said it. And it was on the Source magazine. And then he followed it. But that was the original. That whole King of New York moniker came along with Biggie. It didn't exist before him, and he decided to take it over. And that's what's the problem with saying anybody's project is like Illmatic. Just let it be. The closest thing to Illmatic is Illmatic, which is paying homage to Illmatic. Now, if I listen to it and I'm like, I think he's right, I will not hesitate to say so. But I think I just get annoyed at MCs, fans of rappers who use legendary artists or legendary albums to qualify their new material. You're already burying it. There are people who will never accept you saying that because Illmatic is the holy grail to them. Not to me, but to a lot of people, especially in hip hop, you're leaving yourself wide open for a debate, and especially for people that hate on you. So we'll see though, because those are big words. And actually, that sounds promising because I want to hear some dope Lupe album that he feel is on a level of Illmatic. I'll sign up for that. Shoot, who cares? In other news, this is no shocker, but as a result of the verses between the Locks and Dipset. Their streams of both, not just the Locks, not just Jadakiss, has basically tripled in a lot of ways since the versus battle. Honestly, I really thought it was going. I really thought it was going to be the other way around for Dipset because their performance wasn't flattering, right? It kind of takes away from their music, but I think regardless, people were into the battle thanks to the Locks, right? And thanks to Jadakiss, right? Um, People were definitely into it enough to want to go back and listen to the music if you haven't heard it in a while, that being music from the Locks and from Dipset, right? Because it just kind of creates this rabbit hole of nostalgia that you want to go down. Pause. Uh, but also, like, I think in a lot of ways, if you're new and you're online watching this and you're watching the comments, and that battle took place like almost 2 weeks now, 2 weeks ago, damn near, or maybe a week, can't remember. But nevertheless, it makes new listeners who never heard any of it want to go listen to everything because they want to be a part of the conversation. They want to, they're learning, they watching this one, or not one, but they're watching a couple of people who grew up on the Locks and Dipset, talk and go back and forth about who's better and how Jadakiss is top five. And if you're a music fan or a hip hop fan, that just puts so much intrigue into the music that you like, yo, I'm going back and I'm gonna listen to that. We all do it. And look, we live in an age with streaming. If this was back in the days with CDs, maybe the Locks are selling a lot of CDs, but maybe not Dipset because nobody's doing that. But when you have all these different streaming services and most people have a service, you have access to the catalogs of both solo careers of everybody on the damn stage. You have access to all of it. And what do? We go back and listen to all of it. So it's no surprise because that typically happens after a verses. That's probably one of the dopest parts. We all know Spotify ain't really paying anybody, so it doesn't matter how many streams they do. The lock's getting $35 at the end of the day. It's just that's what it is. It's title, and you get a little bit more with Apple, but Spotify ain't really paying anybody. And lastly, because I wanted to save this for last. Now we know, and we've said on this podcast for a while that AZ, yes, that AZ, yes, from Illmatic, Sugar Hill, Do or Die fame, is making a sequel to his debut album, Do or Die, entitled Do or Die 2. Now, we've been hearing this from a number of rappers. I done talked about it on this podcast so many times. Muddy Waters 2 from Redman, Supreme Clientele 2 from Ghostface, Only Built for Cuban Links 3, even though I feel like that one's definitely going to happen. Um, and so on and so forth. And I've kind of been watching AZ because I felt like he was the closest to actually dropping it. But so many years had passed of him saying that, then I was like, damn, maybe it's never going to be ready. Well, people, the album is basically ready. It's I looked on Apple Music, I saw it sitting right there. I believe the release date is like September 10th or something like that. I can't remember. Let's see if it's here. It is not here. Something like that. But the album is coming from AZ, and he actually um, kicked off this road to Do or Die 2 with a new single featuring Jahim. Y'all remember him? Ghetto Fabulous, something like that, whatever. Produced by KG, who, if you know your music, he kind of produced Jahim, right? Jersey. I'm gonna be real with y'all before I get into the track listing. The single that it's called The Whale. It that ain't it. That is not it. You cannot call you cannot call this, I'm getting verklempt. You you cannot call this Do or Die 2, and that's the first single. Sugar Hill was such a dope record with Miss Jones. The beat, the way he was rhyming, even Miss Jones singing, it felt like money. You know what it felt like? Felt like Rick Ross before Rick Ross. You know that Rick Ross can write rhymes and make it feel like you rich, make it feel like you got money from hustling. That's what AZ and Sugar Hill was, and that was the debut single to his debut album, coming off of his appearance on Nas's Illmatic, where arguably he had the best verse on the track Life's a B. It's a family podcast. I ain't gonna use that. And that album was dope. Some people call it a classic. There was a lot of Nas on it, but everything was dope on there. Rather unique, you know what I'm saying? More money, more murder, more homicide, Ho Happy Jackie. Some really memorable tracks from AZ on there. I know I named a couple that feature Nas. So what? They dope. But this first single, The Wheel, featuring Jahim, let me just say this, the beat from KG, it's all right. And when AZ rhymes over it, it doesn't sound that bad. The problem is it starts with Jahim, and Jahim is not just saying a hook. He got way too many bars on there. And some of those bars of him singing sound really like some really basic ass writing. And I was trying not to be a hater, right? While I'm listening, I'm like, all right, well, let's get to AZ. And we damn near a minute in and we still hearing Jahim. AZ start rhyming. Okay, boom, there you go. You know, you in your groove, and then here come Jahim again. This song shouldn't even be on here. It's not a great start. It doesn't promote hype in within me, that's for damn sure. Um, but let's not judge a whole album that's not even out yet based off of one record, right? Let's not do that. So Do or Die, the track listing came out. Do or Die 2 features 13 songs. I'm gonna go through them. No, actually, I'm just gonna go through the features, but it's 13 songs and some of the producers here. But who else is on it? There's Jahim on the album. Rick Ross is on here. That one's probably fire because Ross on it. I'm just playing. He the greatest rapper alive. That's what Drake said. All right, follow me. Uh, Lil Wayne and Conway the Machine is on this album on a track produced by Alchemist. That got it, it better be what it sounds like. Dave East is on here. Um, Pete Rock is also featured on here. He also produced a track. T Pain is on here, which that should be interesting. How much you want to bet the T Pain feature is better than the Jahim feature, and the T Pain joint probably should have been a single? I'm saying the timing is terrible. T Pain done came up back up in the world, right? With his rants and all of that. And then he on Drink Champs. That's the single you release with T Pain. Whatever. But production is really promising. Bink is on here. Alchemist, like I said, Pete Rock, Buck Wild produced the track. Rock Wilder produces the track. Heat Makers produced the track. Czarface produced the track. 13 songs. I'm just hoping and praying for the best. But that first single, The Whale, feels nothing like a sequel to the first Do or Die. And I know some people may say, yo, well, you said it yourself. First Do or Die was a long time ago. You know, he can't go back. But the problem is when you listen to Jay-Z, AZ rhyme, sounds like going back. It doesn't sound like nothing new. Sounds like the way he do. And that's what we like, bars. But that's what we want, right? My problem is does he understand what people liked about the first Do or Die? Because to me, it's more of the aesthetics of the album, right? The money theme is going to be there. That's what you kind of expected. That was the whole theme of it, right? But the music, the choice of beats, it was a real dark and kind of grimy, a little bit on the woo level almost, but just a little bit more bass. sounding beats, and he worked with Pete Rock on a number of tracks on that first one. This first single just sounds too shiny. It sounds like an attempt at a club record from what? 98, maybe? Not even when his album came out, but 98. I just don't like it, y'all. So if there's anything I take away from what this album could potentially be, is the fact that I am going to skip that song for sure. Also, be on the lookout, because when the album drops, I think this is a album that will require a review. And obviously, I will give it its fair share. I'll listen to it 3 times, do my usual 3 listen, and then I'll let you know my thoughts. And that will be available on the feed of this podcast. That's going to do it for me for this week. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of that, by looking for the name or the tag at Vegas World INC. That's Vegas World INC. And please know that this audio podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts. All you have to do is type in the words Hip Hop Now Podcast in your favorite podcasting app, hit subscribe, and stay locked into weekly hip hop content. Until next time, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.
Drop it on the random.